Hello, my name is Faisal Khan. So in this video, we will be discussing what is a tri-party correspondent tie-up agreement. I have done a video on this thing. You should be able to see the link on the top right. But what we're going to discuss now is actually the flow of what does it actually look like. So in a typical money transfer flow of funds, this is what you would typically see. You would see a user, they have some sort of mechanism for sending payments. There's the MSP, the bank account. They work with either a correspondent or a respondent bank. They send the money through SWIFT. Then the payout partner receives it. The payout partner bank gets the money. They go to the end user's bank account and the end user gets the money. In some cases, if they don't use SWIFT, then the payout partner may have a native bank account in the US and the money is pushed there. But all this actually takes place because the MSP over here in the US, let's say that's the example we're using over here, and the payout partner has some sort of an agreement. And the agreement that they have is called a correspondent tie-up agreement. That basically says MSP from the US says, I have done due diligence on my payout partner. The payout partner says, I've done due diligence on the sending MSP. We know how we are going to settle. We know how we are going to do reversals. We know how we are going to flag a transaction. We know how we are going to request more identification information. We know how we are going to reverse a transaction. We know how we are going to settle it over the weekend or whatever it is. All those things are part of the correspondent tie-up agreement. Without a tie-up agreement, you cannot, as a non-banking financial institution, send money across. So that much is settled. What would it typically look like? Well, this is what the overall sort of structure looks like. There's a sending MTO, there's a payout partner in a particular country, and the thing that binds them, so to speak, is a correspondent tie-up agreement. And, in certain cases, you could also have something where, the sending MTO could have multiple tie-up agreements. They could have a tie-up agreement for, let's say, India. They could have a tie-up agreement for Bangladesh. And, these would be, again, a tie-up agreement takes a couple of months to execute. Like I said, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of back and forth that happens between the payout partner and the MTO. And eventually you get a tie-up agreement. And, it's not out of the world to think that a sending MTO may not have multiple tie-up agreements. They could have multiple. They could have India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, then they can have more and more. Remember, all these tie-up agreements mean that there's pre-funding done over here, that there's capital being tied up, that there is, mechanics have to be programmed into the transaction monitoring system, into the transaction management system, into the compliance manual, and so many things. So as you increase your correspondent tie-up agreement count, as you increase the payout country count, then it gets more complicated over here. But every now and then you will come across a situation that is going to be something like this. And this situation warrants a very special relationship. So let's say we have a payout partner, that has a tie-up agreement with the sending MTO, and there's, sourcing transactions from the US. They have a remittance as a service arrangement with the sending MTO. They're using the license for sponsorship, and they have a tie-up agreement. So this could be, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or it could be UK, it could be Nigeria, it could be the Philippines. But the payout partner may also have, because they're also a licensed money transfer operator, they could also have agreements with, let's say, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, etc. And the payout partner would say, hey, you know what, can you send money to Rwanda? And the sending MTO says, you know what, I don't have an agreement with Rwanda. I don't have an agreement with Kenya. I don't have an agreement with Mexico. I don't want an agreement with Argentina. I don't want an agreement with Nepal. Or I am at present not entertaining agreements for Egypt because of the various reasons. Could be costs, could be pre-funding, etc. So in this case, the payout partner that is trying to source from remittance as a service, and it's typically these correspondent tie-up agreements, and when you go for tri-party correspondent tie-up agreements, they're essentially come into play when you are riding on someone else's license in the US, you're sourcing clients, and those clients need to send money, but you're restricted by the payout network of the sending MTO. You yourself have agreements in various countries, but the sending MTO does not. So this is where you come and say, listen, how about you? I already have these dotted line agreements. Can I just take a transaction from you and I will be the payout partner for each of these countries? Not only am I your client, not only am I your payout partner for these clients, I am also an aggregator for you. And the sending MTO, can agree to this thing. And what would that situation look like? Well, this is what it would look like. So this is what a correspondent tie-up agreement looks like. There is a payout partner. They have correspondent tie-up agreements with various countries. They are not only a customer of the sending MTO for purposes of remittance as a service, they are not only a payout partner for the sending MTO for that particular country, but they are also an aggregator, for the various countries in which they themselves have correspondent tie-up agreements. And I'm showing this red dotted line because I want to emphasize that, like I said, the sending MTO may not find it appropriate to go and do these agreements in all the other places. Let's say this particular payout partner has agreement in 42 countries. Trying to do 42 tie-up agreements for transactions and for economics that may not make sense to the sending MTO, they would rather rely on the correspondent over here that already has agreements, that is already acting as an aggregator, and besides, these transactions are theirs. So they may decide to say, you know what, we don't want this. Thank you very much. Boom, we don't want this. We will use you. And the benefit of something like this, of a tri-party correspondent tie-up agreement, is that now suddenly the sending MTO also has access to all these payout countries via their partner. So I hope that is able to explain to you why a tri-party correspondent tie-up agreement is important. Remember, it really comes into play when the payout partner is being sponsored for a license by the sending MTO, and all the customers are sending money that basically belong to the sending MTO but are being used as remittance as a service. And then this tri-party correspondent tie-up agreement really comes into place. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Till next time, this is Faisal Khan signing out.